What's going on, everybody? It's me, the TheT-SaneOtaku here, and we're back for another February deck profile. Like I said in the Great Nature one, this is my before finalized testing for the season. This is just going to be a quick one. This is one of my favorite decks, and Claret Sword has just always been a nice place in my heart because of the fact that it's, as you might see from all my profiles, I like Turbo, and this is Shadow Paladin turboed. So, let's just go and quickly get into this one. So, off the gate, I'm going to go and stick to grades my starter. I run Pedigree Knight, and his ability is the nice counterblast 1, retire himself, and you look at the top 7 for a Claret Sword, add it to hand, and if you have a Claret Sword Vanguard, draw a card. This card's really good just because it's got before GB abilities, and if you're missing the Claret Sword, which is not going to be surprising, then you can go and get him into your hand. Also, you can go and excel through the deck because you draw a card. I actually run this card as a 2-of because I have the room to run it, mostly also because of the fact that the main goal in the deck is to get it by your second or third stride. Every grade 3, grade 1, and hopefully most of your grade 2s are out of the deck. So when you go into cards later on in the game, you have only triggers left. And that's where this card comes in handy, by getting your grade 3s out of the deck. Then we're going to go on to grade 3s. We only run 5 grade 3s. We're going to go with, of course, the main man himself. This is Claret Sword Revolt. This card's really good because of its on-stride ability, which is you reveal from the top of the deck until you get 2 grade 1s, and then you call 1, you add 1 to hand. The reason why this is really good is it gets 2 grade 1s out of the deck at one time, and then it also helps you build a board and gets card in hand. It also calls them from deck, which some cards require you to call things from deck, so it helps out in that fashion as well. His GB2 isn't used too often, but the reason why it's really amazing is because of the fact that you can basically pull a Gurgwit, where, as you'll see later on, I actually run the good old trial decks PGs. I should run different versions, but the reason why they're good is off of cards you can call the PG, and you can actually put it in the Guardian Circle off of his GB2, and the GB2 makes the PG active. Not really much else to say. This card really helps out the deck turbo, and it's just a really good card. If you don't ride to this thing, there's one other target, you're going to have a sad day. And our other target is Blaster Dark Diablo. I see a lot of people playing Luard instead of this card, which is perfectly fine. If you don't have this card, run Luard. In every game that I've had, he doesn't really do anything. He's just kind of like a pitch for stride. There is those games where I ride this guy, and it's not the worst game I've had. It's not my favorite game I have, because of in the G-Zone we run plenty of cards with Blaster in the name, so you can actually use his GB2. And then his on-stride, when you go into the 1 card, it really helps if you're trying to push for game, where if you go from this card, you can actually ride this card on top of him, and then just stride into that card, and then just try to win the game off of that as a finisher. It does work sometimes. I just wouldn't say that this is a very good end game. I'm probably going to pitch this for the new Luard, if I can get my hands on it, or if we get maybe a new Claret Sword Common Grade 3, who knows. You can also run the old Claret Sword for this card, which is fine because of Claret Sword name. This slot is just really just there. You could even just get rid of it entirely. I just kind of like it there for that other option. We're going to go on to triggers next. So, to no one's surprise, I run 5 draw. I run 2 owl, 2 of the nice good pop into soul draw triggers, which are these, and then I run 1 of her because she's cute and adorable. I did have enough to run these, and these is more, but I just really don't care. This deck's just mostly here for fun. If you want, run 4 of one and 1 of another. I don't know. Just triggers are always just, triggers. They're not meant to do anything very, specific. Not to anyone else's surprise, I run 7 crit, my bad. As you can see, I only run 2 copies of the Pop into Soul Claret Sword crit. The reason for that is that this card, I believe when I was buying all these cards, was $8 a piece. And I did not feel like spending, more than $16. This card actually doesn't do much in the deck at all. Because you kind of want him in the deck anyway. You look at it, and if you draw him, you usually throw him away to guard. So you don't really need him actually that much. And then just the other vanilla crits because of the fact that I didn't really find a good Pop into Soul crit that I wanted to use. And also I had these, so, why not? This deck was very cheap for me to make, so I was happy. And then we run 4 copies of this effect heal. When the time comes, I actually don't know if I'm going to switch this card out for the other one, because I do run the G Guardian she goes for, and when you're really trying to turbo through the deck, this card can help you out a lot by getting more cards into your hand. Now, the reason why I'm still hesitant on going and not running her is because of the fact that this deck has 0 ways to countercharge at all. I don't, as much as that be like, what are you talking about? I mean, there is no way to countercharge. I don't run a single way to do it. I just never have the problem with it. You really should. I probably am going to switch out the Perfect Guard for the countercharging PG to get something. But you really, aside from your once a turn Counterblast 1 due to the on-stride ability, you don't use Counterblast in this deck because your main stride is Helheim. So, as much as that may sound clunky, I don't have any problems with it. Next, we're going to go up to grade 1s. So, the grade 1s are really going to be weird numbers and everything like that. Just, run what you wish, but these cards are what I recommend. 2 Swift Owls. These things help you build lines, especially with grade 1s. You could have call 1 from deck off of your on-stride ability, so last 1, and then give it 7k, and then 14 plus 7 is a nice tasty 21. So he just really helps make numbers off of Helheim. He helps you make bigger columns. It's just a nice, good bird. Good birdo. The only problem is that grade 1 room is, like I said, very customizable. And I found that I only needed him a couple times. I didn't see that there was any purpose of bumping this card up to more. You could even... I will say that I do like him at 2. Running him as 1 of is kind of sad, because if you ride it, then it's gone. Now, I'm going to keep him there because I do run 2 Espada. I don't use Espada at all. I've used him maybe once, but you could bump this up to another 1 and then the next card up to 1. But like I said, the grade 1s really just, are meant there to be filtered out of the deck. And this card just is a nice target, like if you're going into Helheim, they G-Guard, and then you just really don't have anything you want to call, because they're like a 16k base, and either you're not going to be able to go and call a full column, or whatever it may be. You could just call him in the back row, and then just hope that he stays alive long enough for you to stride with it. Yes, it does use a Counterblast, so you would go through 2 Counterblasts that turn, which is another reason why I should run away to countercharge in the deck, but I find the deck usually pretty good without countercharging for the most part, which sounds weird. But we run 2 copies of Night Sky Eagle. This card is just really good. It helps you get that 11k poke. It also isn't from deck, so you can call this from hand to be that 11k. It's just mostly there for if your opponent hasn't gotten a defense trigger. It's a good call target. If they G-Guard or PG off of the first or second attack on your first Helheim turn, you just call this thing out if they're not 16k, and you just swing for that nice poke. This is a really nice card. I don't know if I'm going to be changing out cards and stuff like that for once GBT 14 comes out. That's why I'm showing this off. By the end of the month, I'll go and, of course, have everything ready. So, and we run 4 Stride Fodder. Our low grade 3 count is definitely alarming, so you must run this as 4. just so you can have 9 ways to stride. It's just a really, really, really good card. Also, if you do get Diablo, this thing saves your life because you want that Claret Sword no matter what. It's grade 1 also, so really nice. This is usually my ride target too. I want to ride this card because this card is just, it's a 4 of, so that it has its abilities for the rest of the grade 1s left in the deck. I run 3 copies of Blackwing Swordbreaker. I want to be calling this thing off of my on-stride ability as much as possible, if I can help it. And also, I have Soul that I don't use for anything else, really. So I want to go and draw cards to help me defend against all those meta decks. And this is my way to do it. Also, not surprising, it's Shadow Paladin. You want a big hand size. So this just helps it. And then lastly, as I explained before, we run 4 copies of the good old... We run the good old Trial Deck PGs. So this thing, what it does is you can put it on the Guardian Circle from wherever and Perfect Guard. I'm really debating on pumping this down to 1 and then changing these 3 for the countercharging PG. I'm just kind of waiting for more GBT14 to be released because I'm thinking that they're going to get like a Deli Belly clone where you can PG off of, countercharge off of something else. Because, to be honest, you don't really want to have the recycling grade, the recycling PG because it puts them back to deck, which makes it a little bit clunky when you're trying to thin out the deck to go and get your grade 1s out. And this just goes in, it doesn't do anything like that. But the countercharge is really, really nice to go and get. So I hope that we get something like Deli Belly. But until then, this card's really solid. It does come in clutch a lot. Unless you're facing off against Kagero, then they'll snipe it off their first attempt. So, whatever. Then we're going to go to the grade 2s. We run 4 copies of Grozny. This thing really helps on Helheim turns. And he's just mostly there as, to get those big beefy numbers. I don't run the Crow, even though I run Grozny, because I don't like loops 1 and 2. I just don't really think that it's necessary. He usually gets beefy enough as is, because you can call this thing, usually, I'll call this thing in the back row, and then I'll stride, on-stride ability, 3k, call the rest of my board. He might get 9k, and then he's an 18k by himself. And then, he's just a really good card. Most times, you can usually get this thing to 26k in a row. Aside from that, it's Grozny. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up, we have 3 copies of Greymew. I ran this card because of the fact that it goes with Claret Sword, but to be honest, between everybody here that's watching, I've never used this card in my entire life. I've literally gone up, and I've pitched this thing to stride. I've called it, not used his ability. I just throw this thing to guard. I have never used this card in my life. His cost is Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, on placement only, call a grade 1, give it 2k. It's something I just don't really use that often, and I just find it kind of clunky because it uses Counter Blast and Soul, which I want to put towards other things in the deck. When, off of what we know right now, as of me doing this video, GBT14 has a double rare coming out that is continuous grade 1 in deck. That is getting pitched for this, because anytime we can go and call grade 2s as grade 1s, sign me up. It's also a small version of Grozny, and I run enough ritual targets to make it warrant it. This card's just really not that good. So if you're trying to go and build the deck, don't buy this card yet. Wait till GBT14. Or if you want to build the deck early so you can play it to see if it's what you want, don't run this card. Unless you just want a cheap version of it, then run him. Because he is cheap, but he's just really not that good. I've never used him. And then we have one of the best cards in the deck. We have Morin Spear. This card, is really good. It's why you can turbo really hard and thin out the deck really fast, is because he's a grade 1 in deck. And then he also makes 21k columns, and with any grade 1 behind him. So, really, really, really helps out because of the fact that your on-stride ability can call him. You can go and search him out with Helheim to go and call him. And everything just turbos faster. And also, he's a grade 2, that's a grade 1, so I already said that. But, it's really important because you can just thin your deck really hard so you can just have a very, 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 inflated trigger deck. We're going to go on to the strides. So I run, of course, like I said, I gotta find them here. Crap. I run 4 copies of Helheim. Helheim's just that really, really, really good first stride, because you can go into this thing first stride, and then they have nothing but heals and G-Guardians in hand. Most of the players I know, they try to work around this card, where they don't want me to activate it, and then I find that perfectly fine, because then I just go into its second stride, and then they usually don't have the hand size, so they have to G-Guard and PG. So they usually crinkle and fall because of the fact that most of the way that people guard in this, stride era is by G-Guarding and P-perfect guarding, at least the Vanguard. And then even if they don't do that, even if they try to guard me with grade 0s and grade 2s and grade 1s, or grade 3s if you're D-Robos, is they try to guard this thing normally, and then even if I break through and I hit, I still get to call. So this card's really good anytime that you can try to go into this thing. This is one of the only things that's really any way you look at it, if you're going to build this thing now, GPT-14 and anytime, get as many of these as you can. You want this as a full playset. This card's really good. It's what makes the deck be able to turbo hard and be able to bounce back from it. Next up, we run 2 copies of this guy. He's mostly there as that, after we Helheim through everything, their hand size might be a little low. They might have used some G-Guardians already. You can go into this guy, and then just, he's, counterblast 1, you retire some dudes, and you go and get 10k into crit, and then if your opponent cannot retire 2 of their dudes, then you go and can't go from hand. This is really good when you know that your opponent has either 1 heal in hand and then a PG, so that they have to go and pitch away the heal trigger, and then they still have to go and make sure that they can guard everything. This also works well with the Diablo, because if I ride the Diablo, then that means that I still will be able to play the game, because then I can go into cards like this, and then a card that I have later on in this. So it's really good. It's just kind of self-explanatory, It's to help you win the game. Next up, we have where is this card? Again, another blaster target, so you can go and get this thing off of your Diablo. This card's just really good. He does have Counterblast 2, so I've yet to use this card, because I just don't have the Counterblast for it. But this card's really good, because before I played the deck, I was playing this deck on CFA, and I did go into this card, and it won me the game twice. So, I did win to him twice. I didn't go and win the game with whatever. You get the point. So, he's just that on-swing, restanding Vanguard. This card's really, 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 really good, especially once your deck has been triggered up. So, you're out of grade 1s, you're out of grade 2s, and you might have a grade 3 or left or whatever left in deck. Then you go into this card, and he just really, really, really helps you out, because then you can go and swing, restand, have crits on him still, and then, go for another swing again. In the later game, he gets pretty threatening. Not really much to say. I mean, it's like Gear Chronicle, and all of us know that. Restanding Vanguards are good. Then we run 1 copy of Drag Strider Luard. This is usually what I go into after I Helheim through everything. I'll usually have enough ritual, because I call over dudes off of Helheim. He's just really nice, because he gets me quad drive and a passive crit, and then he gains 3k, because I like to discard 5. So I discard 5, give him 15k, the crit, drive, and then I swing, hopefully, having with my guard restrict that it, can go through. If it doesn't go through, then I still have 4 cards that are replenished into my hand out of the 5, so I only lost 1 card. And I usually have triggers left in the deck by that point, so I have nice amounts of guard material to work with. And hopefully I'll have some damage so I can work more with it, but it's just a really good card. Usually the finisher of the deck as well. We run we run 3 Aura Geyser. We run 1 Doomed and 2 of this. Mostly for the fact that you can go and Gotta go move these. So you can go into this guy and flip up one of these, or you can go into the original and flip up one of these. I really don't, I've never gone into this. We mostly just have space to do it. Cheap skills, they mostly just work if you kind of brick, hands low, big field, whatever the case is, you go into this. I'm probably debating on either switching this out for some drag driver rewards because of the freestanding Vanguard could flip up any kind of stride. So I flip up a drag driver, and then I go into a drag driver, flip up another one, and then I can go and call some stuff left. It's really just like, you don't ever get here. You either win on Helheim, you win on your second Helheim, you win with Drag Strider, you win with the Diablos, or you lose. You could probably even get rid of this card for G-Guardians. It's just whatever rolls. So if you don't have the money for these, don't run them. Run Seabreeze instead. Run other cards. Whenever I face off against people that I know will Great Suck me, I always take out this for a Seabreeze. You know, it's whatever. Options that you don't want. Don't run this card. Don't. I mostly have this card on me because this is my friend's G-Zone for Luard, and I just pimped it out with whatever I needed from Claret Sword. Don't run this card. This card's bad. Never run it. It's a really bad card. It's not good. And then we have G-Guardians. I got you. 10, 11. Okay. So we're at 11. So yes, we do run all 5 of these. These 2 are proxies for Plot Maker. This card's bad. Kind of. You might be able to run one of her because she does mill the deck, so you can turbo harder by using her, and she will get you to your trigger compressed deck. The only thing I don't like about her is that it's getting rid of grade 1s during my opponent's turn, which I really don't like doing because I want to call them to use their skills. So it's basically floor Plot Maker, 1 Gelato. She goes and helps you because of the fact that when you call Swordbreakers, Swordbreaker can draw you a card, the heal trigger draws you another card, and then you can put Swordbreakers into the Guardian Circle to draw another card. So technically every Swordbreaker can potentially get you 1.5 cards. So that's why I think this card's good. Also, you know, you kind of just, it helps you turbo because you can go into Helheim first, G-Guard with this, and then have like potentially 3 face-up cards in the G-Zone form, and then just go into Helheim again and go through. And then the Plot Maker is Plot Maker, the freest broken 10k shield ever in the game. Use it for vanilla, use it for 10k, it doesn't really matter, it's Plot Maker. We all know what it does. So that's Claret Sword. I hope you all enjoyed. As yet again, I will go and have everything ready and done by the end of the month. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.